So today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where the French Empire comes back. Now the French Empire met its height at around the World War II time. So it had France, of course, the mainland, a lot of northern Africa, Syria and Lebanon, and a little bit of Turkey, Djibouti and a little bit of Yemen, Madagascar, French Guiana, of course, and then Indochina. Now, you could argue that revolutionary France back in the 1700s was bigger. It probably was, but we're going to be focusing on this version of France. If I need to do another video on that, I will. But yeah, it was in its height around the 1940s, 1930s, 1950s area, of course, right before decolonization. And we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where that empire returned. So if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I also apologize if my audio cuts out sometimes in this video because my microphone cord or my microphone itself, which I think it is the microphone, is broken and the wire sometimes falls out, which is not good. So I'll be looking to upgrade my microphone soon enough, and I'm just gonna straight up go for the best available thing. But yeah, let's jump into the video. So the French Empire has just returned and a lot of countries have just fallen under its rule, and these are very, very different countries in terms of culture and language, of course. Well, they have language history with it being French, of course, because they were ruled by the French. But nowadays, most of this area doesn't speak French. It's either Arabic or French. But nowadays, this area has Arabic. Over here in Indochina, of course, Vietnamese is spoken in Vietnam, not French. Same thing in Syria, Djibouti. And yeah, of course, religion's a factor. So Islam in Northern Africa, Buddhism over here in Indochina. But setting all that aside, because if we factor that all in, this would collapse right away. It wouldn't stand. So we'll throw all that away, and we have one big unified solid empire that has just returned. What's it going to do? Well, if you're new here, I like to do a lot of war scenarios, and all my videos are war scenarios, so it's going to expand. Also important to note, just real quick, if you are new, make sure to subscribe. But also the EU, NATO, the UN, all of those organizations are all disbanded to allow for this empire to expand. Wouldn't be fair if they did exist, because a giant coalition would just form and they'd be wiped out. But France's first target is going to be Belgium. Now Belgium is split between a bunch of weirdos, not just kidding. It's split between Dutch-ish and French. Southern Belgium is French, Northern Belgium is not French, and this could actually divide the country in real life in modern day, but we're not going to factor that in because it is now all French. So Belgium is fully annexed by France, and now they look over at Luxembourg, who is just going to accept their fate and just join the country as opposed to getting into a war and being destroyed. So now France is grasping up over here into northern central Europe, and some countries are going to kind of keep an eye on them, but they're not really worried because these are small countries. They can't really fend for themselves that well. But when France finally goes after the Netherlands, Germany is going to take action. Now, the Netherlands and Germany are fairly similar in terms of each other. They speak a very similar language, which Dutch and German, they're very similar, also very similar to English in terms of Dutch. So it's more of kind of a liberation instead of a war. German troops kind of enter the country and just occupy areas where the Dutch government is like, this is fine, but help us fight off France, and Germany's like, no. Nonetheless, though, Germany does get a good portion of the country where France is set to get the rest. These two countries, France and Germany, as well as the Netherlands, decide to meet up in Amsterdam and figure out what they want to do. So looking at the Treaty of Amsterdam here, we have the partitioning of the Netherlands, except it's more of the Netherlands uniting with Germany, so this part went over to Germany. This provides Germany with a little bit of a buffer zone with France up here in the north, but also France got the southern portion of the Netherlands, and that is exactly what they were gunning for. But now some events are going to happen elsewhere in the world, most notably the sinking of Western Sahara, but also the colonial invasion of Libya. Now Libya here, they lost a good portion of their land. However, it's important to note that this land is mostly desert and has no significant value to Libya. Now I don't want to say it's completely useless because it's not, but in terms of if you want to lose your coast or you want to lose the desert, you're obviously going to want to give up the desert. But they're also going to be giving up their coast soon enough because the French troops just captured Tripoli, and that is not a good thing. French operatives all across the French African Republic, which is what I'm going to be calling it, start to kind of span out and capture any major area that they seem useful. The Libyan army isn't really capable of defending itself or its country, and that's what allows France just to kind of branch out and do whatever it wants. So after branching out and capturing some of Libya's major cities and encircling some troops, we finally have the surrender of the African nation. And now let's go ahead and take a look at the peace deal. What is a Libya? So that country is completely wiped off of the globe, and now Egypt and Sudan are starting to feel kind of threatened by France. Of course, these guys down here, France is going to invade any more of Africa, it's going to be these guys, but after that they're going to turn their eyes over to Egypt, and specifically the Suez Canal. So Egypt is going to put out a proposal with a bunch of countries, of which only 2 are going to join. And what is this proposal I'm talking about? Well, it's a Northern African Union, except it's more of a Northeastern African Union because Sudan and Eritrea are the only ones to join it. Of course, South Sudan and Ethiopia Ethiopia aren't going to join because of their conflicts with Egypt and Sudan. Eritrea is going to join because they don't like Ethiopia, but also because Djibouti is right next to them and France controls that. So this is going to make Egypt, because that's the primary country, a little bit stronger, but not too much stronger, because Sudan and Eritrea aren't notable military powers. In fact, Sudan is currently fighting itself. So yeah, now France is going to do something a little bit sneaky over here in South America and take over Suriname and Guyana to form French Guiana. That's right, French Guiana. Very original name. France also sends a declaration to all South American countries saying, hey, don't freak out. We're not going to invade any more down here because we don't see your land as useful. Brazil and Colombia and Argentina kind of just say F you because that wasn't very nice. But they all ultimately agree that France has no business there and they won't invade anymore. And that is France's true intention. The US also sends some stuff back and forth with France saying, yo, can we sell you weapons? And France is like, yeah. And then the United States is also like, hey, if we sell you weapons, you can't invade North America. So France is like, fine. So now that the Americas are no longer important, I think it's pretty essential that we just take them and disappear them. Yep, that's right. No, I'm just kidding. No, not really. That would be stupid. So back over here in Europe, France is going to continue to expand its borders into its fellow neighbors. Spain, for example, is next. Now, France is going to do something a little bit ironic. It's going to fund a rebellion and a revolution in Spain. And just like that, 3 fairly major regions of Spain have just rebelled against the Spanish government. Oh, and in addition to that, French troops are invading from the north. So with Spain pretty much SOL, which if you don't know what that means, it's out of luck. Figure out what the S means. Portugal is going to join an alliance because obviously they're not in a safe position. If you don't know, Portugal and the UK are already in an alliance, but now they're going to make it an open public alliance which anyone can join. But before we get to that, let's watch the downfall of Spain together. Catalonia makes some pretty impressive gains. Ultimately, they're just going to stop and wait for the French to wipe out the Spanish, and eventually they reach Madrid, which is just going to crumble the country. They're going to start doing that thing they did over there in Libya. They take out some major cities, meet up with the rebellion, start supplying them, but eventually the Spanish government literally ceases to exist and Spain is going to fall to France. So let's take a look at this peace treaty which is going to be drawn up. All right, glancing at this peace treaty here, we can see that France took over a good portion of northern Spain, but also a lot of regions were released. So this one, and this one. Spain took these 3 islands, of course, because you want that Mediterranean coast that's very valuable for some reason. But also it's important to note that Catalonia in particular is a shade of red, and that simply just means that they are now a puppet of France. So France can put all of its stuff in Catalonia, military, equipment, economy, whatever they want, they can do it. It's essentially a part of France, but it's more of an autonomous region. So if you look at the Cold War, for example, Poland was a satellite state of the Soviet Union. They weren't independent. Their government was pro-Soviet because the Soviets forced that government. It's sort of like that, but more controlling, I want to say. It's not like Scotland or Wales because those are like parts, they're a union. This is like, just look it up. Look up what a puppet state is. Jeez, I gotta do everything for you people. All right, let's zoom out on this map and take a look at this glorious French Empire. Ah, yes, the baguettes, they are happy, but not happy enough because a large war hasn't happened yet. Oh yeah, that alliance I was talking about earlier, let's take a look at that. So it includes Portugal and the UK, of course, but also Italy. And that's very unfortunate timing because French troops just crossed over into Western Italy. So just like that, France is now at war with the UK, Portugal, and Italy. This looks oddly familiar to a certain time period back in, I want to say the 1700s. Don't know what that could have been. Perhaps someone with the name Napoleon has returned from a certain island out in the ocean. Anyway, we have a majority of the French army stationed over here on this border with Italy. Also some of them in Corsica in order to invade down and take over all of Sardinia. Like I mentioned earlier, the troops over here, they're not pushing through the mountains. That's right, screw mountains, we're walking right through them. A fierce naval battle between the UK and France takes place in the English Channel, and Portugal basically just defends itself because these guys are very pro-France, and then also the Spanish government happens to be pro-France. I wonder how that happened. So yeah, Portugal just lines its border with troops. They send equipment out to the UK and Italy. Well, not Italy because that. Gibraltar is also French at this point because they probably just took it by force. So yeah, France controls the entrance to the Mediterranean. There is no Portuguese ships going there, which also means that Italy is screwed. As French troops start to near Rome, we have a catastrophic event happening for France. First, we have Italy being cut into 2, and then Germany joins the war. Lovely. With this, France is taken by surprise, and a large number of German and British troops start to flood into the country, specifically up here in the north. They take over the Dutch and Belgium lands and are welcomed by their citizens with open arms. The Germans then cross over into Alsace-Lorraine, and together they all start to move towards Paris. Who's in Paris? almost the Germans. At the same time, we have a large retreat of French troops in the south as Italy is able to liberate a large portion of its country. France takes refuge in the Italian mountains, and from here a stalemate breaks out with Italy as they recover a lot of the land which was just taken back. But now back up north, we have the French troops that were recently withdrawn from Italy doing their job and pushing back the Germans. They would completely take back the eastern region of France, and from here the Battle of the Bulge takes place, except it's part 2 because the Battle of the Bulge already happened in World War II. France is able to encircle this area, and about 100,000 troops are stuck over here just outside of Paris. With this, Germany sends out a large wave of troops in order to try to recover with them, but they aren't able to get past the French army, which is defending its encirclement fiercely. A small error in the French Navy allows for Britain to make a landing over here in Brittany, which is not the best place to do it. It would have been right there, but this place is heavily guarded by the French because that's the most vital point, like this area. But with the British landing in Brittany, the French army is once again going to be distracted. Now we have soldiers from all over the French colonies coming into Europe in order to protect the motherland. Also, in order to help out the French. Also, France demands Spain to join this war in order to help them out, as France alone would not be able to defeat Portugal and would not give them any leverage over the blue team. Unfortunately though, Spain just got out of a civil war-ish and being invaded, so Portugal is going to do its toll right away and start pushing towards Madrid. Back up north, we have the wiping out of this encirclement, which is going to deal a huge blow to Germany, both manpower wise and logistically. We have them pushing back up north in the Dutch areas until eventually Germany is pushed into the Luxembourg and Belgium until they are not. The British establish a pretty solid front over here in Brittany and will not move, can't park there. Italy launches a counteroffensive, which goes bad. They don't barely get anything back and lose a lot of troops. But now France's assault on Germany begins. Hundreds of thousands of French troops cross the border and start to take over many German cities, including Frankfurt, the economical capital of Germany. From here, they immediately start to push east in hopes of capturing Berlin, but they are stopped because they can't go any further. This map looks oddly familiar. Can't just put my finger on it though. We have Israel joining this war out of freaking nowhere in order to invade Syria and Lebanon. This literally takes everyone by surprise, including the blue team, but they welcome it as Israel hopes to capture a lot of land in order to help them fend off some unfriendly neighbors. Or, I mean, maybe they are the unfriendly neighbor. I don't know. This area is complicated. But they immediately push for Syria's capital and circle the area and take it over, which is going to lead to the folding of a colony. And a lot of troops are just going to start doing their own thing. So the military in this area literally collapses. And it's just a lot of infighting. So it looks like a mess. It kind of looks like the Syrian civil war. Just everywhere. There's weird stuff happening. Yeah, that looks about right. But hey, a lot of troops from Africa just showed up in a Spanish port, and these guys, well, they're really good at fighting. I don't know why. Just happens to be that these guys are used to being invaded, so they know how to fight back now. And with all of that knowledge, and for some reason they're still fighting for the French flag, but you know, they help out their mother country. But yeah, Portugal is taken over completely. And now the march of these African and Spanish troops begins as they move north in order to take on the British. When meeting the British retreat because the British are, well, they're not a very nice country. When those troops arrive, we have Britain completely folding over to them. And with this development and the defense from their colonies and ally, they can now focus on taking out Germany, which shouldn't be too hard. So France starts to move north in order to cut off Germany from Germany. They do that successfully. They make a special agreement with somebody named Denmark in order to give them the part of Germany, which used to be Danish. They're going to accept this offer and join the war on the side of France. And their tiny little army manages to make a little bit of gain, but France is doing a lot of the heavy lifting as Germany retreats from the area and it completely falls over to the red team. Now with Germany cut in half, they're going to push over towards Berlin. Now this is a very heavy task for France, and they lose a lot of equipment and manpower doing so, and they don't even meet the city. So instead of doing that onslaught, they're going to focus on this onslaught. The Navy manages to bomb the hell out of this area, and this area is now a wasteland, which falls to France. And now they focus a majority of their troops over here to Berlin once a time, and the massacre continues until eventually they finally meet the city, bomb it, and take it. With the fall of Berlin, the German government is now going to start to ratify a means of surrender. The German army continues to fight though, and they are pushed all the way down to Bavaria. They finally surrender, and now France looks to win this war. A naval invasion from Africa takes place in which they take over all of Sicily. They move up the boot of Italy, and now the troops up north, which were recently stationed there, are going to push back into Italy and start taking over their coastline. A landing over here from Corsica is made, which is a lot better than people would have thought it would have been. And as I head towards Rome, Italy does something that it always likes to do, and it simply just switches sides. Yeah, ouch. So the UK is going to nope its way out of this war and agree to any terms of surrender. We have Israel being threatened, in which they're going to compromise. Israel is basically like, hey, if you give us Lebanon, we'll forget this even happened. We'll maybe pay you a little bit, but maybe not. And France is like, you know what, that's fine. We don't even care about this colony that much. So Israel leaves all of Lebanon and Syria alone, and they are invited to the peace conference, which is going to take place over here in let's have it take place in Geneva. Very, very convenient. So all the leaders now in Geneva, they're going to draw up a peace treaty for Europe in which the borders are probably going to change very drastically. So take a look at that peace treaty. All right, taking a look at this peace treaty here, we can go ahead and break it down. So France is going to get a large portion of Eastern or Western Germany, and a lot of it, which is going to leave Germany a little bit weak because, you know, Frankfurt, major city, not there anymore. It's now Frenchfurt. All of the Netherlands is ceded over. Denmark gets the piece of land it was promised, plus a little bit more. Down in Spain, we can see Portugal is no longer a thing, which is kind of sad because Portugal is like a very old country, over 500 years old. But these two groups, which were recently released, they also got a little bit of land out of it. Maybe France had some arm twisting for that. The UK slapped on the wrist and robbed. They also had the cede over Gibraltar to the French. Over here, we see that Israel was granted Lebanon, and Italy was carved up a little bit as they lose Sicily and Sardinia, as well as a portion of the northern area over here. Monaco, never heard of it. All I know is France. And looking at this, we can probably assume that Switzerland is screwed. And also looking at this, if we were to take a look at an alliance map and like allegiances, it would probably look something like this. So France has a grasp over all of Iberia. Also, Italy switching sides, they have a good grasp over them. Denmark would definitely be a factor for the French. We can also assume that some countries would fold over to France's influence, like Slovenia and Croatia possibly could. Switzerland, you might be screwed. They might be forced to cede their land, and then they might like be neutral. I don't know. We can probably assume Poland might be on France's side in order to not like be invaded for the 15th time in history. Sweden definitely is not. So we can take a look at like France's enemies, if you will. It's safe to say that Great Britain is one of them. If Germany didn't get a government change, definitely them. I'd say for sure Israel, definitely Egypt, Nigeria as well, and just to spice it up, Russia. Yeah, this map looks very familiar, and honestly, this could be a pretty interesting alternative future of the world video, but that series doesn't exist anymore, so we can't do that. But on the topic of that, I do want to talk about some things for the channel real quick before I end this one. So first of all, by the time you're seeing this, I am out of school. I'm officially a senior now, which is cool, which means I am almost done with school. Wow, that's crazy. But, you know, I might go to college, and if I go to college, that's 4 more years of BS and money and things that probably won't help me for a piece of paper and a job, which I'll probably make less than I am now doing YouTube. Hey, I don't know. Maybe we can blow up even more. But yeah, basically, I'm out of school now. I have a huge, well, we have, me and Jaden, my editor, we have a pretty big plan for the summer. I think I might have shared it already, but if not, I'll share it in a video that will come out maybe Monday. But yeah, you know, remember that change video I posted like a couple months ago or a month ago? Well, let's take that into account now. Some things are going to be changing. But yeah, I'm out of school, which means stress is gone. My shoulders, all that weight on them, gone. I'll be able to focus more on YouTube now. I do have, I'm doing a sport next year though, so I'll have practice for that every day if I'm in shape enough to do it. I don't know if I will be. Right now, I'm really out of shape, but you know, maybe we'll see. We'll just have to take it as it goes. But yeah, I have future plans for this summer and huge plans for this channel over the summer, and expect greatness, hopefully. So yeah, once again, thank you guys for watching this video. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like on it, subscribe, all that fun stuff that really helps the channel out, helps us grow. And you know, if the channel grows, maybe I don't have to go to college. Maybe I can just do YouTube for a living, you know, if it makes money and you guys are happy. It's good with me. That's just a big what if, which is this entire channel. So once again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And of course, thank you to all the super fans. This includes Patrick Clauser, Yo Moma Moma, Texan Cowboy Cheese, Kylie Speaks Plays, Poland Country Ball, Dimitri, DW Cool Dude, Nevada Garbage Trucks, Yakko, Soviet Ball, and Serminator. Once again, thank you guys.